Welcome to a presentation by the Manchester Historical Society. In April 2004, we visited historic Educational Square, which is today the Bennett Middle School complex, at the lower end of the downtown business district. This complex was designed by architects Carrere Hastings of New York, famous for their Beaux-Arts architecture, including the New York Public Library. This complex is a representative example of their later, more restrained work. It's in the colonial revival style and it has many interesting architectural features, including at the roof line a denticular molding. It has a slate roof, pitched rather than a flat roof, and very interesting brickwork around the windows and doors. Above the windows is a keystone motif. This is a close-up of the sign for the Franklin building, also part of the Bennett complex, and it says 1915. The buildings were begun shortly after the terrible October 1913 school fire, and they were completed and opened apparently in 1915. This shot of the quadrangle shows the buildings that were designed by Carrere and Hastings at that time. The Barnard building, the Franklin building that we just saw, and the Recreation building. The Cheney Tech building was built about 1920. Some of the architectural features here, and of course they play through all three buildings, include the interesting roof line. You can see it looks a little bit like a castle there with the part that sticks up. That's called crenellated gable. This has the denticular molding and the slate roof. You can also see the keystone motif above the windows and an interesting brick surround around those windows. These are all the original windows. Now let's look at the Recreation building. I'm going to read from a pamphlet of about 1919 talking about the Recreation Center. The World War, now this would be World War I, has given a tremendous impetus to all types of physical activity. This is particularly noticeable in community recreation. With its recreation center, playgrounds, and athletic fields, the 9th School District is fortunate in its equipment for this phase of activity. The Recreation Center is a unique institution as it is privately owned and publicly supported. Through the generosity of Cheney Brothers, the district is given the use of this splendid $200,000 building as a center for recreational work. The 9th School District assumes responsibility for an annual appropriation for upkeep and maintenance. The total budget is $12,000. The building is well equipped with social rooms, reading rooms, auditorium, game rooms, club rooms, bowling alleys, locker rooms, gymnasiums, swimming pool, smoking room, kitchen, and buffet lunch. A state trade school was organized in 1918 and originally met in the Franklin building, moving into the Cheney Tech building circa 1920. At the Historical Society, we have a wonderful old pamphlet called A Question of the Future, Work and Education from 1919, which describes a trade school as a school where boys 14 years of age or over may become apprenticed to a trade without the formality of an indenture. Here is the South Manchester High School, built in 1904. It's now the Bennett Apartments. It was built in 1904 for a secondary school in the 9th District. In the Speece and Bidwell History of Manchester from 1924, they say, after the closing of the Center and the East Academies about the year 1870, those were private institutions and the students' parents had to pay, there was no private institution in town which provided instruction in high school subjects. In 1902, Superintendent of Schools Fred Verplank began to examine other schools and solicited proposals from various architectural firms. It ended up being Hartwell, Richardson, and Driver out of Boston, The school was constructed with funds donated by Cheney Brothers, and the South Manchester High School was dedicated in December 1904. Now let's go inside Bennett Middle School. This is the Franklin building with the wonderful old fan light above the front door with its cobweb tracery. Let's meet the principal. We're pleased to be able to visit inside the school today and to meet Kathy Ouellette, principal here. How long have you been principal, Kathy?
I've just completed my 5th year, Susan, at Bennett. In the beginning of my 6th year, my hiring date was February of 1999.
And were you in the Manchester school system before then?
I was not. I was a principal on the east side of the state and an educator on the southwestern portion of the state.
So you've come up through teaching and...
That's correct. That's correct.
And do you have an interest in athletics?
I do. I was a varsity lettered sports and an athlete in 3 sports, tennis, field hockey, and basketball, and played a little college field hockey as well.
They still play field hockey here?
I don't believe Manchester funds a field hockey team. I believe it's girls soccer. That's the upcoming sport.
Well, your office shows the grand high ceilings.
It's quite phenomenal.
Yeah, and your windows are absolutely huge. And you have your brick walls, which is very interesting. But I also noticed the pipes are clanging. I went to school here, and I remember the pipes clanging.
Well, that hasn't changed. They still do clank throughout the day. Starts early in the morning and probably ends the early evening hours. It's a sound that all our students and staff are very familiar with.
Well, you're going to let us take a tour today,
Absolutely.
Then. Okay.
If you'd love to join me, we're ready to go.
Thank you. Our tour will begin in the classroom of Ginny Schneider, which is really a combination of the old and the new. Ms. Schneider will now demonstrate the unique and antique blackboard.
This is one board. This is the second board. No, you don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. This is the second board. This is my X and Y axis. If I'm doing some kind of a graph, I'm sure that the person before it might have been a math person because they would have used the whole X and Y, positive and negative numbers. So anyway, this is the back. The one that I have the rules on comes down if I want to use that. I hardly ever do it. So this goes down like that.
So this is a brown board instead of a black board.
Right. Okay. So this goes up. It goes up pretty easily. This one comes down easily.
Wow.
Like that. When I need more space. And I usually use this one first. And then, because I have the right clips, I teach South America. I have a map right here of South America that's mounted on the top.
Thank you for the demo. And this is the science
These are all, they're all heavy-duty boards so that we have we have a sink for each table. Yeah, it's great.
Well, it's a pretty big room, too.
Well, it gets really crowded because right now we're doing quiz boards, and they're all around. They were all around the room, and there's still a few around the room, but most of them are down in the cafeteria. If you want to come and look at them.
Okay. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Miss Schneider's classroom has an adjoining but separate cloakroom. To get there, you enter the regular classroom door, and the cloakroom is off to the right. The lockers are obviously new.
I think you know what, Chuck? I think the boiler room is the most impressive. Those big furnaces. That's so impressive. Makes me feel tall.
light bulb. You might have a better
Okay.
shot there, but
Okay, let's stop up in the light bulb now.
beyond it, no, when you're not slide up.
Beyond it, okay.
Right,
How
right
about
about,
here?
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I'd like to introduce Chuck Cadman, who's
I'm really thrilled that we're able to enter the tunnels today, which are not ordinarily open to the public. And I want to introduce Chuck Cadman, whose title is...
I'm the project coordinator of Buildings and Grounds.
And you were able to unlock that door, which is not ordinarily unlocked, I take it.
No, that's always locked.
So what is down here in the boiler and the other facilities that are here in the tunnels?
Well, the boiler house is a totally separate building. And all of the steam and utilities come to this building underground through these tunnels. We have condensate pumps, we have water storage tanks, small water heaters, and as you can see, all kinds of pipes. Other than that, there's just access tunnels to get at the pipes and have a way to getting the pipes from one building to the other.
How many buildings are there in the complex?
There's 6 altogether. There's 4 on the quad, and the boiler plant across the street, and the Cheney building also next door to it.
Is the Cheney building open?
Yes, it is. It's used for classes.
What is that kind of roaring noise we hear?
That's a pump that's a little bit out of alignment, needs some repairs.
I thought it was the normal noise.
It shouldn't be quite so noticeable.
Okay. Well, I hope our audience can hear okay. So what's in this room over here?
This is a condensate pump.
Okay. Maybe we can go take a look at that. Do you know how many miles of tunnels there are, Chuck? Or feet, or?
We've got about 50 feet here and 50 feet on the other side. The tunnels going over to the boiler plant and the Cheney building are just under the street. They're a little more than pipes. You really can't get through them. But these are really the only, there's about 100 feet that you actually can access.
And where are we right now?
Right now, we're in the rec building.
Oh, I didn't even notice the transition. Okay.
This is the foundation wall of the rec building.
Oh, I see. Thanks. Okay. We're approaching the girls' locker room.
That's currently not in use.
So this is the girls' locker room, not used today. And I have an opportunity now to introduce Marsha Gunther, who actually knew Miss Elizabeth Bennett. And what year was it that you first met Miss Bennett?
Yeah, way back when.
Way back when? Oh, I see. Discretion is here.
Discretion. No, I was a 6th grader at Highland Park School, and she used to visit all the schools, and I have such distinct memories of that lady. It was really, it's kind of scary to go back because a lot of people say, I am the embodiment of Miss Bennett because I'm such a schmaltz and a ham, but that's all right. But this was the locker room, and this is a renovated locker room that you're seeing. When I was a student here, when I came in 7th grade, there weren't all these lovely lockers along the side wall. We had baskets. And the baskets lined the walls here and the tunnel. And the tunnel, as it is today, is a little flooded. It was a common occurrence. But you would keep your sneakers and your towel in the basket. And every once in a while, Miss Bennett would make a foray and come and visit. And I remember Miss Bennett, and I must have been a lot shorter because she seemed a lot taller. But she always had a purse on her arm, much the same as this, but it had the click top, and you could hear her coming, because I don't know what she had in her pocketbook, but she used to go click, 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 click. And she also had something else on her head. Let me grab my other prop.
Oh, okay.
And I will look ridiculous if I put it on, but Miss Bennett, how to put this delicately, was caught in the fire with the original Bennett, which was not Bennett at the time, it was the South Manchester school system. But she lost most of her hair and she had a wig. And she always had a hat on her head with a long veil that came across the front with kind of a bun in the back. And one of the funnier episodes that I remember is Miss Bennett walking very fast on her very sturdy shoes, which are very similar to these lace-up Oxfords. Came very quickly down the hall and did a U-turn. Her body went one way and her wig stayed the other, which was hysterical. She just simply pushed it back into place and continued on. And her voice reminded me of Eleanor Roosevelt, very high and very, very precise. And she was a delightful lady, but you didn't mess with Miss Bennett. And if you spelled her name incorrectly, oh boy, it was Elizabeth with an S and Bennett with one T. We learned that very early. But she was delightful. She was delightful.
Now, did you ever actually teach while she was still a part of the school?
No, I'm ancient, but not quite that ancient. I was a student, and she retired, I think, quite a few years before Bennett was named Bennett. It was the Barnard School. This was Franklin Rec and Main Building, and then it was renamed Bennett in one of the first renovations. So I came here when it was Bennett as a teacher. So in 1962. So I've been around a long time. So, but she was a delightful lady, and I would love to have a picture. So if anybody out there knows of a picture of Miss Bennett, we do have a picture because we always wanted to do a picture of her, and we had Mr. Larson, who was the artist at the time in residence here, and we never found one that quite captured Miss Bennett with her hat, her veil, and her purse.
We'll have to look for that.
I would love it if you have one.
I do. It's a newspaper article of the members of
We-
There were no photographs. There are no photographs of her that we know of. No, she really didn't want too many people to know, and I don't know how many people know about her wig problem and whatever, but I was the student and I watched it, so I know it was true. But she was a delightful lady and certainly a credit to Manchester, and lived for the kids,
I've heard her characterized as being just a wonderful teacher of teachers as well as of students.
Yes, she was always there, and you know, she would pause to talk to teachers, she would pause to talk to us as students, and I was in 6th grade the last time I remember seeing her, so it's been a while, but some of those memories never fade, just as the ones of Miss Lutz. Those are some colorful characters from the past, but they were wonderful teachers.
Thank you, Marsha.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
Please continue with us on the tour here today.
I will.
Thanks.
I know.
Maybe that's when there was water.
Well, we were a little smaller too, so.
I remember it being so cold.
It's not happens because she was here. They had evening practice.
But the water itself never warmed up.
Swimming over there, you know, they were moving. They were moving. I don't see any locals. Has come into this other non-public area, the former swimming pool for the East Side Rec, correct?
Yes, it is.
I was telling Miss Oulette that my daughter had swim team here in the 1980s, and it must have been closed sometime between then and now. Do you happen to know when?
I want to say it was around the early 90s. I came here in 95, it was closed then, and hadn't been used for a while. I want to say it was like 1990, 91, something.
Would it ever be able to be used again, do you think?
Anything is possible if you have enough money.
Oh, money. Would this have to be handicapped accessible if it were?
It would all have to be handicap accessible, it would have to have a whole new filter system, pumping system, the whole control system for maintaining the pool would all have to be replaced. As well as accessibility and privacy in the shower rooms and everything else.
Yeah, I noticed that.
You'd have to really rebuild the building, another whole part of the building in order to use it again.
Well, a lot of fond memories of swimming here. back at that time. Thanks. And maybe we can go take a look at the gym itself, the one that's not used anymore.
Which gym? The gym?
Oh, with the track?
The gym is used all the time, every day.
Wonderful.
In fact, if you listen, you can hear the
I
basketballs.
thought I heard something up there. Okay, well, let's go take a look.
Okay.
Thanks.
Our 8th grade boys are quite large.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like a labyrinth here. Now we're on a wooden floor.
Yep. Let me just get those lights.
With kind of a grayish blue here.
These lights are shot.
You really can get your exercise around here.
Absolutely. It's great exercise all around.
The gym. Tell us about the gym.
This is a gym that I believe was designed after the gymnasium similar to on the Yale campus in New Haven, Connecticut. This is an 8th grade class participating in an indoor soccer unit. There are some restrictions in conducting some of the physical education classes here, as you can see, from the suspended track, or they actually refer to it as a skylight track. That's very unique in the state of Connecticut. You can see from the areas on the basketball court that it really restricts your shooting capacity because of the way the track is suspended. But we get a tremendous amount of use with this facility with our physical education program, sports, and also recreation school activities that occur in the evenings.
Do they actually run on that track today?
They can, and they have. Usually they do. That's a lot of times our students are, through a warm-up activity, encouraged to take a few laps around the track, but they actually do still use it.
My husband and I were talking about it because we remember running on that track and always thought it was going to fall down, mostly because it just makes a lot of noise.
It does. I'm not sure, how much with a full activity gymnasium, how much the nose level does raise, but students do use it. I think there's a little bit of a bounce to it. I'm not sure what the materials are as far as on the floor of the track, but I could certainly maybe have one of the students demonstrate for you if that's of interest to you.
We'd love to see somebody run the track, sure.
Let me just get permission from Mr. Kaklo, our physical education teacher who's conducting today's class, and see if I can get a student to volunteer their services.
Thank you. Thanks. Wow.
We're using this little storage space.
So this used to be the bowling alley,
The
though.
bowling alley, these are ball returns. This is the pin spotters were down there.
The full-size bowling alley. Yeah. Well, this was very modern at its time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Everything for the kids.
This was the town's recreation building. And what is now classrooms and everything on the first floor was all pool tables and ping pong tables, that kind of thing.
Wonderful. Maybe we can get a look at the wood over here. Wow. Very nice.
Were the pin spotters people or really actually mechanical?
I'm sure
They
they're
were all manual.
manual. Maybe they got a tip at the end of the night. Maybe.
Maybe they didn't.
Maybe they didn't.
Yeah, there was a big lever that you could push down and the pin spikes would come up. And you'd have to balance yourself to hold the pin spikes up while you reset all the bowling pins, and if you jiggled, they'd fall over.
Oh,
but,
dear.
yeah, but it was fun. It was fun.
Was it candle pins or duck pins?
Bigger than duck pins and not quite candle pins, and certainly not the big black ball, whatever.
They're obviously the small balls.
Yeah, yeah.
Were they the duck shape?
Duck
pin
shape. Duck
Okay,
shape.
they're
Yeah.
duck
The
pins.
little guys. But it was fun. It was fun.
So did you come to the rec as a child?
Yep.
And played?
And the Girl Scouts in town use this a lot. This was one of the prime places that the Girl Scouts use, and that's where I learned how to keep score, which is a mystery to me to this day. But the Girl Scouts use this too, and like Chuck said, it was the town recreation center. Everything was here. You know, the pool, the gyms, the track, the bowling alley. It was the center of everything. Neat place. Neat place.
So these are layers of places people can sit.
The teams, when you had teams, you could sit and watch and harass everybody.
Trash talk, Marsha?
Gutter ball, gutter ball.
Very nice.
God, I'm dating myself.
One thing you might want to notice is the sprinkler system. Even though these buildings were built in 1913, they're fully sprinkled. And by today's standards, that's incredible.
Yes.
We have a lot of buildings that aren't sprinkled.
Could be a reaction to that terrible fire.
That's exactly what it was.
Since these buildings were built to replace the night school district, I'm sure fire was on everyone's mind.
And those were all wooden buildings, so they
Heard they burned in 30 minutes. Without any children being harmed, however.
And that's how Miss Bennett lost her hair. She and Mr. Verplank got everybody up.
Okay.
I've never seen that.
I haven't either, just little clips I've seen when they're advertising it.